John and my kids used to play together.
I was just trying to help you
I
out.
know, but he's a puppy. 40, turned 40 this year.
41, yeah, 41, 22, yeah.
On we go. So before we start, thank you all for coming tonight, but before we start, I'd like you to give me a one-word asset that the town of Norridgewock, in your opinion, one word asset from the town of Norridgewock that you think something that we should be thankful for. Johnny,
Waste management.
was that
Waste management.
waste? Interesting.
Trying to wait. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know, I gotta think about this.
I wasn't ready for a quiz. Community.
Was that
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
just overtaken?
I said that first.
What did you say? What did you say?
That's it, I didn't say anything.
Nothing.
No, I haven't said anything yet.
Say something.
I don't know what to say.
What asset, what do you like about the town? The river? The town manager? Something about the town of Norridgewock.
I like the small, oh, just one word.
You can give it to me.
I like the small town feel.
Small town feel, I like that.
The residents.
Residents,
There.
to the community. What's that mean? What's the, is that people or buildings?
People, like I like when I go work at the local bar, like everybody's talking to everybody, like no one feels uncomfortable, they all feel welcome and they all like the vibe, and I think the vibe of the restaurant has a lot to do with it.
Cheers. Old show.
What's yours?
I'd say, two things, the fire department, we're very fortunate to have a fire department. Total proud of you. But I think we don't take enough, that doesn't take enough credit is our town government. Not just the town manager, but the people who work on the roads, the people who plow the sidewalks, those are thankless jobs. And those are jobs at the time in the morning where most of us are sleeping. I'm very thankful for the services that our town does, so. All right, thank you all for coming to this evening, discussion and action on the 2023 minutes. Oh, hi Ruth, nice to see you.
Hello.
Any discussion or action on the minutes?
It's a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting. It was
November 20,
November 20th.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Discussion on the Norridgewock Sportsman's Association grant funding match support by wayfinding and business signage. We have the presentation that was sent to us, if we all have. You have it?
I do,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do we have?
I'm not a presenter of proposal.
We have a representative from the Sportsman's Association here. Carrie, would you like to make a presentation?
Sure.
Imagine that. Sorry.
You're
Thank you.
serious. I don't have to for everybody. It's all share.
We can share as long as I get back.
Did I want to try? This is just like some example, but so we applied for $10,000 in matching grant funds from Somerset County. I mean, you guys have the packet, I don't know if you already go through it, but basically what we're trying to do is establish signage along all of our trails. The rail trail, the snowmobile trails, ATVs everywhere. Initially, what we want to do is put wayfinding signage for all of Somerset County, like, you know, Jackman to the north, 50 miles, whatever that is. Just basically like, I don't know if anybody snowmobiles or has been on the rail trails, but you know, there's like big boards that have Jackman 50 miles, Bingham 30, the other direction, Oakland 25, whatever. In addition to that, we are looking to put up kiosks, which I gave you a handout that just gives you an idea of the kiosks that we're looking to put up. There'll be maps, there'll be lists of businesses, there'll be emergency contact information for, you know, our trail masters, our fire department, you know, like, where people are on the trail. The rail trail is labeled with mile markers. I don't know if everybody knows that, but So, and that's basically for emergency services, for groomer services, that kind of stuff, to just let you know where you are along the trail. So, we're looking at establishing at least 2 large kiosks. One at the park and ride, which we've discussed multiple times in these meetings, but, and then the other one, we are planning to put out on Frederick's Corner Road. That is kind of where people start to come into town from Farmington, New Sharon, and Mercer. But from there, they can kind of skip town completely. So what we're trying to do there is put people into downtown, into the communities, let them know where they are in relation to fuel, food, lodging, the next stop, whatever. In addition to that, there is another kiosk, which is a little bit smaller, that we're thinking would be geared more towards like the walkers, the hikers, the skiers, the bikers, whoever's on the trail that might come through downtown, like by New Balance, like a smaller, like a 2x4 kind of kiosk with a little roof. The same idea, but maybe more of an exploded view of the mapping system, so you can see where you are downtown within walking distance of all of these items. In addition to that, so we, in the pricing that you have there, it's a little bit rough because we don't have building plans specifically for each item. But we have in there 50 reflective business signs. So our idea is that we will establish business signs for all businesses along the rail, that people can access by ATV or snowmobile. So we will get those signs set up, put up the first time under this grant, and moving forward, the club will support those signs and maintain them. The large town signs that we're looking to establish, like welcome to Norridgewock, we're also putting up welcome to Fairfield, welcome to Madison, where you are on the trail, because part of this is the Somerset County matching grant. So a lot of it is, or part of it is based around all of Somerset County and kind of pulling from each direction and pushing in all of those directions. So it brings people to the surrounding communities. We're looking to match to our town of Norridgewock signs here, so they'll look pretty similar. Madison's will look the same, but with their town seal, their color. Fairfield is really the only towns that are in our kind of reach of where we're trying to cover. So, really the other signs that we're looking to put up are things like quiet zones. We have a couple places where the rail is very close to people's homes. I mean, the snowmobiles are already out. I'm sure you've heard the cans, they're wonderful. And so we're gonna try to put something out there to kind of slow them down through residential areas that they're already causing a little bit of loud noise through, so.
Are people complaining about it?
No, I mean,
Not that you've
not
heard.
me.
Right.
Not on Facebook, that's where usually people go to complain and they haven't. I don't know, who's been on the trail to cross-country ski or walk. I know Brenda, Ober has too, so I don't know how that went.
Almost every day.
Yeah,
People are great.
people have been great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think for the most part, good snowmobilers, good ATVers, you know, the people that obey the rules and wanna do this a lot are pretty conscious of other people using the trail. It's multi-use and I think everybody knows that's the plan, so. I did like just kind of give a quick like what the signs would look like for each business or what our thought process is. It would just be the business name, how much further to it. Wouldn't necessarily be like arrows and that sort of stuff. We would put those up separately as club members and take those down because they'll be kind of in the way and not in great spots if things change, so. And it'll tell you whether you can access it by snowmobile or ATV or whether you can't access it by one of them, so. That's okay. Whoever wants to go first.
Is there any signs over where they can park off the rail trail?
There is, I think, just like a little bit of a sign that says there's like a pullout, but that's about it.
Okay.
I don't even know that it says
I didn't know if
that.
that was anything in your signage that you're,
It will
so they
be.
know they can park there. Okay.
Yeah, that's actually part of the reason that on this I put like parking.
Okay.
Because a lot of times you can maybe access someplace, but you're gonna need to figure out where to put your snowmobile.
Okay,
There isn't
perfect.
always like parking at each location.
So of the people that come into the town of Norridgewock on a trail, that whether it be the rail trail or the ITS trail. The ITS trail is open to four wheels, right?
Most of it is not.
So now you only have really one entry for four wheelers into the town, which would be the rail trail, is that correct?
And those,
Anyways,
right,
and of the people that come in, how many come in to the town of Norridgewock from the ITS and versus the rail trail? 50-50?
that's really hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, we opened the trail Saturday. The rail trail really opened on Saturday. If you want to hear about it. I mean, Six Penny Jug, I talked to Jocelyn and I talked to Amanda today, and she said she would say 20 to 30% increase in sale on Saturday.
I didn't sit down for 8 hours in case anybody was.
I saw that today and they said this weekend.
The great thing about it is too, is it's not just one person, like usually people don't snowmobile by themselves, I mean, it was a party of 5, and a party of 6.
And they were snowmobilers?
Yeah.
Yes,
Say when we were driving through town, there was.
We're getting cubbies for their helmets because.
Yeah.
Because I use the trail almost every day. If I were coming from the north into Norridgewock on the rail trail, I would want something just after the bridge to let me know what's ahead. So by putting it at the parking area,
Mhm.
you're through town now. So
Sure.
I think there's already a sign there for the Kennebec Rail Trail. There would be it would be a perfect place for people coming south. And I think putting it in the parking lot is valid. However, people coming by aren't gonna see that. That, you know, and just because if I were coming from the south, north, I would want either something at Hotel Street or someplace just before you hit town to, what's my options up here?
Yeah.
So there will be. I mean, I can't, it'll be funding on what kind of sign that looks like. Typically, when you come up on a snowmobile system, it's whatever businesses sponsor those signs. It says, hey, up ahead is where you can get off. But we will have Hotel Street probably, the issue is they need to be able to pull over and park safely and not be in everybody's way. So you have to kind of put it someplace. So your first part of your question is coming from the north walking.
Right.
Right, over the trestle. So my thought process was that it would be on the other side of the street, sort of in the hill, so that you could come
But
across.
there's a nice pull-off right after you get off the bridge there. There's a big pull-off. I see people did it all weekend. 3 or 4 snowmobiles would be parked right next to the bridge.
Gotcha.
So there would be a perfect place for a nice kiosk right there. And, you know, information, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
but that's my opinion.
so my thought was the New
And
Balance.
four-wheelers, that's what you're gonna get. I mean,
Right.
you know, obviously it's 18, I mean, snowmobile, but for all, some, when summer, you're gonna have four-wheel. We
Oh,
did
yeah.
this fun side by side. They were lined up to get across the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
It's a perfect place for a kiosk.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to walk in there and look at it.
Yeah.
You can back up for a
My wife and I do a lot of walking in the woods and hiking on trails and blah, blah, blah. We never see maps anymore. We never see handheld maps because we all take pictures.
Mhm.
Take a picture of the map, now you got the map right on your phone, and if you wanna go to this place, you put it in, you're off and running. So I would not suggest, I noticed on this, it talked about a physical handheld map. I think that those are problematic.
So as a snowmobiler, there is like maybe 1 or 2 apps you can download on your phone. But taking a picture of a snowmobile map isn't necessarily the same. There's lots of intricacies. I'll say Bingham, the Kennebec Valley Trail map, we just got them. They're pink. They're at Madhouse Grill. Bingham and Solon sell those by donation. They raise $13,000 a year by donation only. So people are buying them and taking them. I know that the Six Penny got rid of a few. These are like large maps that when you fold them out, of course they'll have one.
About a locally produced map.
We were talking about producing a map that included more things like Norridgewock, Smithfield, Mercer, Fairfield, Oakland area, like the part of the rail trail and start of the ITS local trails that are just kind of getting up and established. We're on the Kennebec Valley Trail map already, Norridgewock is, but it doesn't go further than us. Smithfield's, I think, is like a 8x10 piece of paper, 8x11. Mercer doesn't have one. New Sharon, Farmington, like New Sharon's not really included, they're a little too small, so, we just were kind of, the map costing in that was more for like getting a large map, to put up on the kiosks, so that you can see this is where you are, this is where the businesses are along, Somerset County, the lower portion of the Kennebec Valley Trail.
And I know when like I went ATVing, we had to use a paper map because we didn't have service and we would pay for like a $50 a month GPS to not have service or whatever, so.
Well, I
feel
think
like-
what John was saying was just take a photo of the map on the kiosk instead of having one to go with you.
Gotcha.
Which you don't need service to take a picture or like look at a
Right.
photo, so.
And then, I mean, the maps are like 24x36 and they like fold down. I mean, we are map people, like when we go in a different place, we buy a map and take it with us because you never know. Like, if your phone dies, you don't have anything and sometimes those times, so.
One of the things when she brought this to me about the map was that it was another opportunity for businesses to be able to take out relatively low cost ads to promote themselves. And then also by the club doing it here, they can customize message. What it would run a pretty take quantity print, but you can, if you print every year, you can update your information, like what we're looking for locally. Keep your twisted teas off the four-wheeler kind of a thing. Slow zones or things that might change as we move.
You're very fortunate to have the opportunity for four-wheelers, and that's gonna be huge. I mean, how short is our season for snowmobiles, but four-wheelers is 8 months. I mean, I saw one on the road I saw one on the trail today.
With tracks,
Yeah. the
Yeah.
tracks, Yeah.
yeah. I was like, well, he's not supposed to be.
I saw-
He's one of the good ones.
So what do you need from us, Garrett?
Okay, so, what we're asking for, and it's on the last page, gives you a breakdown. So the matching grant is $10,000, so it's up to a $20,000 total payout. We are asking for 7,500, from TIF. The club both put in 2,500, sorry, plus, we will do all the labor. So we'll put up all of the signs, all the 4x4 posts, all the, which will equate to, God knows how many weekends, but. So that's kind of our,
And you feel it will help the club in what way?
it's not much. The only way that it's really going to help the club is moving forward, like we will charge businesses $50 to maintain their sign on the trail, make sure it's up, make sure it's in good condition. You know, all of those things, replace it when the time comes. I don't know what that fee is going to be, that's a club decision, but that would be the benefit to the club, is a little bit of fundraising. For us, we can put our Venmo on the kiosks and that kind of stuff, maybe bring in some donations that way. But this is more, when we started looking at this, we want these things on the trail for snowmobiles and ATVs. But really, as a business, it's more of advertising for our businesses and, all of this area in Somerset County, so. It doesn't really help us as much as it helps like the local downtown businesses, not even the downtown businesses, small businesses off the trail, like higher up the trail or, you know, to the south and the north, so.
And there's 4 signs? So that's what it says, 4 town signs, okay,
There's more town sound, that's the, like,
Okay.
welcome to Norridgewock, that,
okay. And how many kiosks?
it'll be 2.5,
Okay.
2.5. 2 large ones and 1.5.
I'd really like to see one at the end of the trestle,
I'm sorry,
at the end of the trestle.
okay,
I only because I think you're missing out on a lot of ATV people. I mean, yes, the snowmobiles are gonna come in through Frederick Corner, but I think ATVs, you're gonna see traffic on that, and if it were faced parallel and everybody could see it, it'll be huge. I think you'd be really surprised.
I'm not even trying, I don't really care where it goes. But, my concern would be the landowner there. Her major concern was people stopping and picnicking on her lawn. So on this side of
West
the, yeah. That was a question.
bench there, wow.
Okay.
Maybe if there's a sign there, they're saying there was food and a little park area down the road, then they wouldn't hang there.
Well,
They would
right,
have-
I just don't want them to like pull over, I mean, I know sometimes people pull over and hang out for a while. You know, I just don't wanna, I mean, we are in landowner relations too, you know, so we don't want people to be mad either. So, I don't know, that's
I
why
appreciate that.
New Balance was kind of our easy, it's not really in anybody's backyard.
Right.
So,
I had two things just to note. One was connected to that, and one was it's cautionary. We were already gonna have a backup, there's congestion, people waiting to get across or come back across. You're gonna have folks that wanna stop and take pictures. Do you really wanna give them another reason to spend another 5 minutes there?
Yeah,
That was my
there's a toll. My wife and I are thinking of a toll bridge.
Okay.
Protein.
question, it's the bottom of it.
You can serve coffee too.
So that was one thing when I initially heard that, thought that was one of the things to think twice about. The other thing is this quiet zone sign.
Mhm.
And I know you mentioned to me before, and I was kind of finding it, but I'd be very, very cautionary of it. Because the people that are respectful are gonna be respectful, the people that aren't, that sign's only gonna make it worse.
We're aware,
And
and so we have game cameras for that, I mean, we have,
sound too, they do sound.
oh yeah.
Mm.
And we have, I mean, honestly, when we talked about this rail trail a long time ago, I know we talked about like how many game wardens it's actually gonna bring to the area. But the game wardens are camping in Anson. They've been in Anson, right at the other side of the rail bed, like for like 6 days. So it really is like moving game wardens in. So I think you kind of weed out some of those people pretty quickly. Most people are pretty respectful. I don't know. We're respectful. If we see a quiet zone, I don't know. A lot of people, I feel like they're respectful of the walkers and skiers. I don't know. It's, but that's what people want from us. So we'll give them what they want, you know,
I think slow children's sign, which is, every study that's out there says those are counterproductive. Because it gives people that are there a false sense of security, and it gives no impact to the people that are passing by. In the study after study, that's what came to
gotcha.
the people that are gonna be respectful trail riders are gonna be.
Well,
just that.
Yeah,
it's probably something that you can put up now, and then if you get it as a worst complaint, you can take it down, right? I mean,
oh, we can, yeah.
do you already have signs that say, I'm guessing, that say like that it's a multi-use trail and everything along?
That's all state, so a
State.
lot of the signage as far as like multi-use trails and what the trails made for, stop signs, that kind of stuff are all up, and that's all state stuff.
We had someone at the restaurant the other day that was like, oh, I bet you it's not safe, they're all going too fast, so I'm glad to know that you were on there and had a good experience.
I mean, people go fast, but they do, if they see somebody, like they slow it to a crawl.
It is very good. Any more, well, we haven't had a motion. So thank you for your presentation, Carrie. Matt, you want to say anything? You want to say?
No, I'm just waiting.
Very good. You've been very.
How sweet.
Sorry. Any, do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we award the Norridgewock Sportsman Association up to $7,500 for matching grant.
What is up to?
$7,500.
Well, yeah. So
The grant works as we spend it, is how we have to spend it all before we can be reimbursed and
and do I hear a second?
match it.
I second that.
And any discussion? Ruth, how are you feeling?
I just wonder, we only have, well, if we're promoting the other towns though around us as well, Smithfield, Mercer, it's 10 signs and a 10-mile.
I don't know, hold on. There's 50 signs, so there's 50 business reflective signs.
Are they all,
10 directionals are just like. I put 10 in here, but it's kind of like at larger intersections, like, right when you get on the trail, it'll say like Oakland and Fairfield in the other direction. Yeah.
Right,
That's like a pretty minimal cost, those ones, but that is part of, working with Somerset County funding. Was to make sure we're promoting like all of the new Kennebec Valley Trail. And working with them. I mean, in reality, the bulk of the trail goes through, I think there's 16 miles of trail, or 18 miles of trail, and 11 of it's in Norridgewock.
right.
So in reality, we're really promoting most of the.
So that's 50 separate signs along the trail?
Yeah, well, each way, so
Okay,
in each direction, so for 25 each way, and that's just, I mean, I'd have to really like go and decide which businesses kind of would even benefit from. A trail sign,
Right.
like if you can get to them, and
right.
like York's Market would have one, whether it would be York's and Sixpenny Jug together. Like it might be something different, do you know what I mean?
Oh, you
And
couldn't
they
just have a
sponsor a
food
sign?
thing?
Are they
No,
sponsoring
'cause that-
signs or they?
No, 'cause
No.
like as a
It's
business, we
just
would.
static for the first
year.
Okay,
There's no expense to the business,
Not the first year, no,
and you decide who gets in and who gets out.
no, they would well, if you can't access them, like, I'm not, so. I'm trying to think of a business.
Like, can you safely get to Cumbies?
3D equipment. Let's play on here. You're getting a sign. 3D equipment might get a sign, or on the ATV trail,
Like Cumbies, can you get safely to Cumbies?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So it'll be like, you're not technically, you can't get to Cumbies or Dunkin' Donuts by snowmobile, so it would say only ATV on it.
Okay.
Because they do, but Hotel Street is not a snowmobile trail, so you can't get there. So,
do you have any signs, denoting crossing ahead for the snowmobilers? Or anybody on the trail, really, but motorized?
I think
oh, you mean like
Like
coming up to a stop
on the
sign?
street or downtown, well,
So,
downtown, but.
and there's a whole like. Rules in place, the stop ahead sign needs to be a certain distance from the stop sign, so it says stop ahead, and then there's a stop sign. The stop sign is labeled with what road you're on, what road you're crossing, and then. In every direction, everywhere.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Any more discussion? Sense of vote, all in favor of supporting it, 70, right? All opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Gary, thank you very much for your work. And let me just say, the whole board is willing to help when you're putting up the sign.
Oh, perfect.
I
Like that.
I was like, I know John,
Yeah.
the John.
Yeah, give me a call.
No, that's okay.
My wife and I are glad to have
And actually, John says the meeting's adjourned because your husband's buying dinner, so.
Oh, that's needed, you can like that.
Part B, presentation by Christian Savage,
Bye, guys.
Executive Director of Somerset Economic Development Corporation regarding revolving loan fund opportunities.
You want me to be on this side so you can turn your head to the other?
It's fine to carry it.
Well, good evening. I have some cards I can pass them out. So some of you know me, some of you probably don't. I'm the executive director at SCDC. Yeah.
So at the last meeting,
Thank you.
which was a while back, we were talking about ideas that the TIF committee could be working on programming opportunities and whatnot. And it was brought up and there was a lengthy discussion about the revolving loan fund opportunity. And you guys wanted to learn more about it. It seemed like a good idea to help businesses with lower no interest loans, with maybe non-traditional funding or couldn't get traditional funding. And so there are a couple agencies around here that take care of this. SEDC, for which he's the executive director, is county overseen as the entity of the county. It was a program that we were referred to by Heather Johnson, the DECD down in Augusta. And so I reached out to him to see if he'd be willing to come and explain kind of the bones of it to you and take any questions that you might have initially. And determine whether or not it's something that you thought the committee would want to follow move forward with.
Well, thanks for having me. So we run our own, so we work all of Somerset County, it's 4,100 square miles. We're funded partially through the county, but we're a private nonprofit. So we have our board of directors, our loan committee. We work closely with county commissioners and other departments and stuff like that. But we established a revolving loan program in 10 or 15 years ago. This would be my 6th year here, much before my time, but it traditionally was for projects, businesses, or clubs that couldn't get financing. And it was usually a smaller amount. It started with that, and if a business needed like a down payment for a large commercial loan, couldn't come up with 20%, a lot of them can't. That's where we come in. Over the last few years, our loans have grown in size, and we've partnered and really like capital stack. So it'll be a lead bank, it can be us, it can be Finance Authority Maine or other organizations, KV Cogs, and we kind of all chip in, we kind of spread the risk out, and collateral, we all have like a little bit, it's nothing great, but the risk is lower, the dollar's lower for everyone. So usually, I mean, there's nothing set in stone of what we have to do, what we can't do. It's really just case by case. In 2019, we partnered with the county for the Go Lab Timber HP loan. Typically, their TIF committee just issued grants. This was a high risk startup, and the dollars were pretty large. So instead of a grant, they issued a loan, and we administer it for them. So now we're up to 850,000 of county funds we administer. Most of those they've partnered or matched with our loan. That makes it a little easier, but doesn't have to necessarily be that way. So borrowers like us because we're fast. We're cheap. Our legal is a few $100s. I mean, if it's up to 2,000, that's very rare. But typically we can have, if we start at the beginning of the month, by the end of the month, we can have application process, a vote, and usually funds in hand. So, some commercial loans can take a long time, depending if you need appraisal or not. We have a loan committee with bankers and attorneys on it, so they kind of expedite the process. They like playing with our money sometimes better than the bank's money, so they approve a lot. But we just like to see things get done. So I do like the possibility of this, because if you just gift and gift, eventually you're left with nothing. The loan program, whatever that may look like, will get you some return to keep investing in other projects. So I think it's forward thinking for sure on your behalf. In the loan terms, we can have a whole list of discussion tonight, but I just want to provide an overview of kind of what we do, what's brought us here. But yeah, we probably after next week, we'll probably be administering almost $1 million for the county. We take a small percentage for that. Typically for our borrowers, we add a $10 a month processing fee. It's our secretary coming in, cutting the check, making the payment, stuff like that. So it's really cheap for the borrower. And then we'll just have to see like what this looks like, but we're all ears and looking to help for sure. So typically we don't charge anything for our services. We look at like $100 to $200 per town just for you support us, thank you. Sometimes we don't carry through with that because we have to go to 5 budget meetings, and I'm like, it's not worth my $100. We're gonna make 5 evening meetings and all this stuff. So but mostly we're county funded and private businesses, so we try to do as much as we can for free.
So how does it work? Give us an example. So I want to open a small bakery, and I need $30,000.
Typically we sit down with you, we start with a business plan. We try to direct them first to a local bank or credit union to kind of keep that local economy going. And they have a lot more money than we do. Some businesses are very bankable, they just don't think they are. Other businesses are not bankable and they think they are. So sometimes we have to give them good or bad news. But we start with a business plan, financial projections, and we kind of just say, this is your business or your project, take a stab at it. It doesn't have to be polished. We'll help you, edit it and revise it, and get them just having to answer questions that they probably haven't thought of, so really getting them bankable. If they can't get a traditional loan, then we'll come in and see why not. Sometimes it's the down payment. Sometimes they just won't cash flow. So then it goes kind of back and forth. And if they then choose to apply with us, we have a standard loan application. We require, I think, exhibits A through F, but it's nothing to the tune of a bank. And then have a loan committee meeting, the next few weeks and decide. If the writing's on the wall that we probably won't finance them, or we need some other funds available, we'll reach out to the KV Cogs, the county, depending on the impact. The county doesn't really like to get involved unless it's something really impactful or big. Sometimes certain towns, so the town of Skowhegan has loan opportunities, maybe the town of Norridgewock will soon. There's CEI, Coastal Enterprises, Maine Rural Development Authority, Finance Authority, Maine. So if it's a huge project where there's just a huge shortfall, we try to get all hands on deck. Timber HP wouldn't happen had we not had 9 organizations in that mix. So we kind of just read the writing on the wall, case by case.
How does TIF enter into this?
Usually, a municipality or county TIF has some language in there that you can pull X amount out for a TIF committee or commissioner, selectmen's, whatever they deem appropriate use, right? It depends what the language is written in.
So out of my $30,000 loan I'm looking for, how would TIF get involved? I'm not sure how that would.
So the TIF, if you take TIF funds, and depending how it's written, you can take TIF funds and put it into a loan program.
In a loan program, what is that?
So say you all decide to say, look, we're gonna take 50,000, put it in a loan program and make sure it hits, checks these boxes and abides by your TIF language. Then it's probably, I'd assume, this body's decision to approve or deny certain loans. If you want us to look at certain applications and give you our perspective and then present it to you for a final vote. I think it's a lot of back and forth. I mean, if you guys want final say and us just to do the paperwork, we're open to that. If you want us to quickly kind of underwrite it ourselves, we can do that. But I think with a TIF, essentially you can take those TIF funds, instead of granting them away, you can put them into a loan program.
How do people know about the loan program? Like, how would somebody know that was an option for them to even ask about?
I think I think Norridgewock is very well connected locally. I think word would get out. If you start offering attractive financing, you'll be beaten away at the
You go to
door.
the bank and start talking about financing, they'll do what they can, but if you don't qualify, or maybe you don't get it the whole way, they'll turn you on to somebody like Christian.
Oh, I see.
We pushed to Christian, we pushed to Mid-Main Chamber and the Grove Council out there, depending upon the nature of the business, we pushed to KV Cog, the Council of Governments, and they all have kind of these non-traditionals where you can start piling up, stacking up maybe the loans so that you can get what you need.
Yeah.
So would it be something like if someone comes to us and asks for a certain amount and we say, oh, well, maybe we're able to give them half, but then tell them, okay, the loan option is another half of how you could get it.
Yeah, but I think you're gonna be careful when you say we, that we might be his organization, because you don't really wanna be in the business of loaning with personalities or on committee, right? And a lot of what you're dealing with can be sensitive.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we had a loan meeting today and, we approved a large loan, but it wasn't enough. So I'm getting it right now. And so it's, there's perks and there's some setbacks with that for sure. So it depends on, to this group, if you want to get into the weeds that much, or just say, look, we approved X amount for the loan dollars this year. We're letting SCDC kind of do their normal thing. And at no point will we say, we think this should happen, it needs to happen. If you guys want it to happen, so I think you just have to obviously discuss, either tonight or future meetings, what those rules and guidelines look like. So yeah, but we have certain banks we work with a lot. They'll have a commercial loan and they say, you're short, we can fund you up to 80 or 90% of what you need, and they'll call us. Not every bank knows about us. We have limited funds. I think on hand right now, we probably have $500,000 available to lend. And that can go really quick, or that can sit there for 2 years, you know, you never know.
So you mentioned return, is that like,
Usually we had been at 4% for a while. We're kind of inching towards like 6. We were at 7 for a little while, went crept back down. Rates are a little trickier now. We've had clients come and try to do a huge loan, all of it with us, because our rate was better, but they were very bankable, and we just said, this isn't really what we're supposed to be doing. So with that, you know, we collect principal and interest. Usually it's like a 5 or 10 year loan. Once you get further than that, it takes a long time to see much return on smaller loans, you know. But I think the beauty of this is you get that principal plus a little interest back to keep funding, you know, for the next few years and then some, hopefully, so.
I think that was kind of the idea, instead of like where the facade grant, we basically cut them a check and say, do your thing. In this scenario, we'd have, you know, parameters, but we lend them the money and they pay us back. So I guess with rates at where they are, if we could come in at a very low interest rate, it might be worth it for someone to start a business or expand their business in Norridgewock instead of Fairfield or somewhere else where.
So does TIF initially go in and say like, we're gonna do like 50,000 or something, and then that's what you have to give out, or is it just whatever? How does that work?
We haven't really discussed it. I mean, I think it could work. You approve a lump sum for the year. I could see it going either way. It goes really quick, or maybe it rolls over a little bit, you know. You know, I think, you know, we're just throwing stuff against the wall here at this point, but I think, yeah, I mean, I think this could work for sure.
What other towns, TIF committees do this type of lending?
Madison has a TIF, but they do a small grant program. They really kind
I
of,
call it a grant program.
yeah. And I think that's up to a $5,000 grant.
A grant is usually you give them.
Right.
Yeah. And they fund a lot of their budget with their TIF. After the mill closed, and you can, depending how the TIF language. Bingham has a TIF that they fund most of their operations, or most of the TIF dollars are from operations with that. Skowhegan, their TIF is set up a little different. They have an economic development corp that TIF funds go into. They do lending and they do grants.
They do lending.
Yeah.
So that would be a model. If we were to use a model.
Yeah.
That would be a possible model.
Yeah, and they typically have budgeted numbers for the year, and then they have a separate TIF committee that approves grants. And then they have the development court board approve loans. And so they're separated, the grant loan.
So the TIF funds it, but then there's a different board that approves.
cause my question is like, how do we, as a committee, decide that we grant it to them or they loan it? Or we loan it?
Yeah, I think you'll have, if you have that option, everyone's gonna say, well, I want a grant. And
Right,
that's when you know, I mean, I think if you look at something saying, we believe in this project, maybe not to the tune of this amount, but we'd be willing to, you know, we do a lot of grant loan mixes. Or you could even do a forgivable loan if they prove in 5 years that, you know, it all worked out. If not, then you have to repay it. But so that's, you know, it's all up to you guys.
I think to speak to that, you look at what your priorities are gonna be.
Okay.
One of our big ones has been, how does it look? Right, so theoretically, somebody could go and get money from the loan program and then come in here and get facade money. Right, and then now we're taking care of kind of both ends. You've got hopefully no investment coming to town, and then you've got also your exterior improvements.
okay,
But initially, it doesn't even need to come to us, right? Because like if somebody goes to the bank and is looking for a loan and it's directed to that, it's gonna bypass us, it's just our money.
I mean, we could even look at it. So we always try to leverage dollars. So if someone went to a bank, they refer them to us. We were short on cash or saying, all right, we're only gonna go up to a certain amount. And if they're in Norridgewock, we could say, well, we're gonna partner with the Norridgewock TIF committee. So now you have the bank, us plus you. I mean, that's how like you really spread the risk. I mean, it's pretty cumbersome to do that, but it happens.
Who manages that relationship?
The bank. The bank's like, we're first in collateral, usually we come in second. Depending on the loan, we feel second position is strong sometimes, other times we're like, we'll be lucky to see a penny. We just have to believe in the project enough. So after the bank, typically they'll sign off, they'll approve having subordinate lenders underneath them. After that, they really don't care. It's really just up to the subordinate lenders, us or you, making sure you have all the documentation and that you're collateralized securely, you know.
Who has the expertise? Where would we get that expertise? So you would manage that for us,
Yeah, we could administer these loans for you.
and how much would that cost us?
I'm not sure yet. We just had a loan committee meeting today. I wanted to throw this in there, but we ran way over.
I mean, just give me $5 or 500, so for a $30,000 loan. I mean, just.
Typical grant admin is 1%. Usually we don't hit that. I mean, it depends how much work is, you know, if it's set up. It's auto withdrawal, it's, you know, the legal is easy, the documentation is easy, the collateral is fairly easy. I mean, we try not to admin anyone to death, so we don't necessarily need the funding, but if we're spending significant time on it, you know, so I'd say $500 or $1,000 of the life of the loan.
Sure.
Because we're doing that anyway. My secretary comes in and pulls all the loans, all the payments and invoices and tries to hit them all at once as efficient as she can. So it's really just a timing thing for her. So we're not eating a ton of time, but it does add up once you get, you know, I think we're at 13 loans right now, so it just takes some time. But do you guys have a range that you've even discussed of looking at, or?
Look, we invited you. So my question is, how much does Skyway have budgeted for their loan fund right now?
The Skyway Development Corp. They typically have, I think it's about 300,000 a year.
And do they loan it all out?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So I think they have. I think it's in November, maybe I'm wrong. They get that TIF, just deposit. And then that's what they have for the year.
So they allocate the entire TIF?
No.
Okay.
It's a portion, and I can get those details from you. So the guy running that and Skyway is on my board, so
Right.
I can get that information, or you can reach out to Jeff, yeah.
We're able to restrict this to investment in Norridgewock.
Yeah, because we did the COVID fund with you guys and restricted just in Norridgewock businesses, yeah.
And then I guess my only other question would be, what do you think, if you had to recommend a number that would be impactful for Norridgewock? As a dry run first year, you would manage it, how much do you think that deposit should be? Investment.
I think 100,000 probably would be manageable for us for sure. I mean, we do loan sizes that large. I think it just depends on. Do you want to give $10,000 loans? How much will that help? And you don't know until you have that in front of you, right? It might, you know, mean the world to a small business. A larger business might say it's not worth my time. But I think it's a good start. And then I think with, you know, this group in the town promoting that, other banks knowing that those dollars are there, I think you'll run through that 100 pretty quick. Especially if you have attractive loan terms.
And is this, excuse me, the funds for this can be for anything, not just like a new startup business or like just. You know what I'm trying to ask, like, what would the purpose of the loan?
Like
funds
if you
be?
can like redo your kitchen or something.
Right, yeah, like are they only new businesses, cause you mentioned like business plan, or is it, okay, a business here wants to expand and they can't meet the needs?
Usually a startup is harder because you have to convince someone you can do it. You know, if you're already up and running, you say, look, we can do it, but we wanna expand or grow. So
Okay,
it's much easier to get financed once you're up and running. So with startups, they're 10 times the work for sure. So we kind of just usher them along. For existing businesses, I mean, I'm always impressed with business owners. You know, you're like, well, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, and then you talk to him, you're like, okay, he does. He just you know, is overextended or lost all his employees, you know? So I think it depends what comes in, you know, I mean, you can have an open enrollment, which is nice because that's flexibility.
Yeah.
Or you could have a set deadline for application.
That would kind of let us like look at everyone and say, okay, these ones fit our criteria the best.
That's the only way to look at like a level playing field, I
Yeah.
think. If it's a rolling basis, you might lend $100,000 to one business.
Yeah.
Maybe have regrets, you know, down the road, and then business number 2 comes in a week later, and you're like, I would just
Yeah.
let it all, and we would prefer to give it to you, you know, so,
So it can be at any point of a business for anyone.
yeah.
It's kind of what, I mean, we do basically open enrollment with facade, right? And. I don't know, you've been,
Yeah.
it's never been an issue because we've always had money, but I think our.
Yeah.
The last payout was significant, right? So we're down to. 100 No, we're still over 200. Oh, okay.
What's the advantage to the town?
In this scenario, I think you keep local funds into local businesses. I think you immediately create, or really add on to what you guys have going. I mean, I've been very impressed with Norridgewock the last few years. I didn't get asked that question, the one word, but I was gonna say, the newer generation leading this town, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna, you know, it adds to that. I mean, it's, you know, I live in Skowhegan, but I've been here my whole life, and there's a lot of momentum in Norridgewock. You know, you're not getting these huge businesses coming up, but what you have and these smaller businesses, I think you all support one another, and I think this would be another asset to that. But it's it keep the local money local, and it give the local decision, and ideally leverage some of maybe our funds or the states. And it just, I think eventually, if you gift away all of your TIF dollars, which will happen at some point. At least you can hang on to something to keep reinvesting, because it really is just reinvestment in your local businesses, you know.
So as they pay the loan back, that money comes back into the TIF account?
We could collect it and issue it back, or we could keep it rolling, you know, it's up to you all.
Customarily would stay in the loan fund.
Yeah,
So we start with 100,000, we lend out 50,000. And then in the first month, we receive a payment back into our fund for $1,000 that they paid in. Or a portion of what they.
it can, I mean, some county loans, we were paying monthly, and I told them, like, I'm just flying through checks, can we do this at least quarterly? Now we do it annually, but we send reports, like, this is what we have on hand, so it's nothing too cumbersome, but a lot of money back and forth, just.
Yeah, so unlike the facade program, when it's gone, this program has an opportunity to actually support itself.
If you do $100,000 each year, in 5 years, if you have a 5-year loan, you get $100,000 back.
Yeah.
What it's supposed to, theoretically.
Right,
Yeah,
that's right.
and it's a slow process, I mean,
Yeah.
when we lend, you know, we have a good year, and we're like, I have like 9 more years, so we see.
Right,
You know, initially the payments are small, but it's up to you if you wanna just keep that rolling or not, so.
But did I understand you right? We'd get some of the interest back that they pay, or that all goes to,
No, it'd be principal and interest,
right?
Yeah.
We'd get that.
Yeah. and we find a lot of times on smaller loans, when a business, you know, expands and improves to a bank, like. We took all the subordinate smaller loans out, because you wouldn't finance this totally, the bank will say in a year or two, okay, come refinance with us, we'll wipe everyone out. So you would get paid off, so you might, on a typical 5-year, 10-year loan, maybe it goes 2 or 3 years and you get paid off early. That's what we hope, because it takes all the risk out for us, and then we can lend that to someone else. But it's really just kind of a stepping stone for a lot of businesses to get bankable, I think. Because our program, you know, probably something like this, a 5 or 10-year max is probably what you're looking at. You know, a bank can go to 20, sometimes 30 years. It's much more affordable for smaller businesses, and get some money back to us, and turn it again.
so do you think it'd be a bigger benefit to have that lower interest rate? Or to be at a higher interest rate, but be, I guess, work with less bankable people, you know, like, is it more beneficial as an economic stimulus to say, okay, we're gonna get 2%. And and have a pretty hard criteria of who we lend to, or is it better to have a 6 or 7% interest rate and lend to people that aren't like from an economic?
It's tricky because the people, and this is like any financing, right?
Yeah.
The people who need the best rate are the ones hardest off, you know, they need somewhere to start. So, you know, if you try to buy a home, horrible credit, and you get hammered with a rate, and you know, you're gonna, you know, lose your home. I think it's probably, again, I don't want to be vague, but probably case by case. I mean, you'll be able to see an application if it's like, if this loan's really gonna help, and can they afford a 6 or 7%? If they're not bankable, you know, we've seen businesses come in and take a really high rate, and then they can't afford it, and we've told them they can't afford it. And so we don't really want to do that, you know. I mean, I would look at like a 6% rate and lower. If someone's risky, you hammer them with an interest rate. I mean, they're risky for a reason, because they're right on the edge of failing. So if you give them a 8 or 9% or 10%, you're not doing anything.
So it's case by case, and in our criteria, we're not gonna have to say, okay, it's 2% for everybody. Like, you're gonna help us decide that? Well, that's what I'm wondering.
I think you gotta have a set.
Like, is he help? Okay.
I mean, you could do, you know, the standard interest rate, minus 2 points, or, you know, I mean, I think you want to, you know, a pretty attractive rate if you want to, you know, you're focusing just on Norridgewock businesses. I'd do a favorable rate if I was you.
And I wonder if, do we have to set that at the beginning of the year? Because like, if you think about it, this year, everything's gonna drop 3 times. Like, do we get to change that, or?
What the rates are dropping? Yeah.
I'm saying, like, do we have to set it like that one time during open enrollment, or are we able, like, we see that it changed like a bank does and we change it?
I mean, I think if you.
Just curious, like,
Yeah.
a conversation piece that we wanna talk about. Cause then if we're higher than the bank, then that would be.
An opportunity to refinance us.
So this
Yeah.
agreement that you see, they've been to the bank first, or can businesses just come to you?
They can just come to us. A lot of it's speed, you know, commercial appraisers are out 2 or 3 months, and they're like, we don't have that, we need to close in a month. So it's really business by business. I mean, we try to refer them out to banks, and get that process started. While also, sometimes they'll apply to us, they'll be in loan processing with us, and they're talking to the bank. So, but we try to have them run traditional financing. It's really the most affordable, just because the loan terms can go so far out, you know, it's just a monthly cash flow thing, so. And you could look at it 2 ways. You can say, all right, this, our first tranche of funding will be, a deadline of April 30th. And then you have like a bunch of loans that come in, kind of look at all at once. You know, we can help you with scoring criteria, if you guys want to do it, or we can do it. And then you can say, all right, we think we're going to open it again in November, October, you know, whatever dates, 6 months away. Or you can say, okay, we have like 20 more applications in queue. Maybe we just turn it into open enrollment. I mean, I think you can put the criteria in with exceptions. The county just changed their community benefit application twice a year. They have a gray area saying with exception or commissioner approval.
For like a big project that's like.
Yeah, and they're entertaining one now. So you don't want to tie your hands too much. But I can't really forecast what the first year will look like. I mean, you could have 5 applicants or 25, they're probably somewhere in between, but so typically we would do, like, if someone applies with us, we send them the application, ask for supporting documentation, credit scores. If they're working with a bank, most banks will send us the underwriting package, and we're like, great, you save us 4 weeks. And then we'll review the application. We'll go for an approval or denial with the terms. And then our attorneys, and this will be another big thing. You know, we do the repayment schedule, secure the collateral, you know, do the filings for Secretary of State. Or if it's Guns for, but file UCC on your huge truck, you know, that's collateral, we don't like those, but. They're mobile, and then, get all the legal documents for signature. Usually our legal costs run like $600 to $900, maybe $1,000 per loan. It's really cheap. Closing costs typically is much larger than that, so we can handle all of that. And it would just be, I mean, the cleanest, easiest way would be give us X amount of dollars with targeted businesses or industries you want to support with a range of interest rates and let us do our thing. Or you can say, just help us as we go, and we're open to either one, so it's probably worth everyone thinking about, I'd say. I mean, unless you want to vote tonight, but, and then maybe deciding something in the next meeting, and in the interim, shooting me off questions and, you know, clarification, because I'm sure there'll be some, so.
Very well done, actually. But it's a whole different way of looking at using the TIF money. I don't know if you like the idea, but it's a different way of just giving it away. So thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
I don't think so. I'm assuming Richard's good for point of contact with the group, and
Yep. It's the main man.
so we're pretty flexible, and do you guys meet monthly?
Yeah.
Yeah, tonight was gonna be hard, but it actually ended up being easy. But I didn't want to wait till February, because I know when you guys wanted to start, but I think trying to have details ironed out for February would be probably good, and we can hit the ground running, so. We'll do that.
So we won't be able to hit the ground until March,
Okay.
until the money gets appropriated again,
Okay.
but just so the committee split, the existing allows for the investment of up to $600,000 for revolving loan for energy conservation, but other business assistance for costs for economic development activities. So that's where you get the broad stroke as to what you could do.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
If we wanted to amend that, we put them in that up or down, or whatever, but that's how it was written originally. So.
Thank you.
All right, good. Awful good. So thank you for your time. Stack this here, there you go. Thank you very much. And yeah, like I said, I think, you know, it's down to people, you know, just forward thinking things like this, and very supportive of the businesses, so. And the trails are looking good, and the boat rental thing on the. Yeah, well, at first I read, I'm like, man, you're never gonna see those again. I'm like, all right, well, your card will be charged.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's. All right, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Continued business number 4, review of preliminary economic development survey result, which I assume is pretty vast. You got it.
So we put on an online thing, I gotta scrape up some funds to probably give out 2 Amazon gift cards for folks that are responding. It's still open, I've got some hard copies here at the library for folks to fill out, if you haven't had the opportunity. I tried to make it pretty quick and easy to get their folks' ideas as to what they like, where they wanted to see investment. A lot of these questions were the same questions that we asked when we were developing the revitalization.
Is this like an add-on to this,
Yes.
or
This one.
the top ones?
We have
Oh,
these.
yeah,
This is what I'm gonna talk about, but those are answers that were unique that came in after I printed it.
Oh, okay, got it.
So a lot of these things were things that were asked when we did the revitalization survey back a while. So which I have revitalization plan for folks that don't have that. I have the hard copies for you today. So you can kind of see where folks are supporting, where they're not. Honestly, you see like the gateway and wayfinding signage. Those are ranking with less support. We've already done that. But I wanted to put it in there. Do people want to see more of that, less of that, or whatnot? So those are pretty good indicators. Obviously, your building exterior improvement seems to be the major thing that folks still want to see in your town center. The one that we're really trying to scratch the surface on was public support for programs like what we just discussed. And is there support for that? So as we look to it, what do you think of the following program opportunities? The business assistance program to attract new businesses, there's very strong support for that. I mean, there's the only ones that wavered were arts and culture and local history, to be kind of expected. And with what we have to look over here, that did fare better than local history, than arts and culture, sorry. And then obviously you're still seeing your promotion of outdoor recreation as a major target for what folks want to see TIF funding. And then you get your, what do people think, finance, low interest business loans. It does tend towards the support side, and most people are just moving. And that's where you see the 38% of respondents.
Okay, but hold on, that graph is a little, the left hand box, the left hand vertical. What is 0, 10, 20, and 30?
So those are the raw number of respondents.
Responders, okay.
That's correct.
And what are the numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
So 1 is strong support, 5 is strong opposed, 3 is neutral.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't, it was on the chart online, and I just realized.
So this is strong, this
Yes,
is strong on this end, and this is weak. Okay,
yes,
okay.
and so you're seeing, you know. Let's see, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, some odd percent. Are either neutral or in favor of a program like what we just discussed. So the graph, like you said, was deceiving, not because of my lack of labels that I missed. But because the fact that if you lump 1 and 2 together and 4 and 5 together, you've got, you know, with 40 respondents on the left and you've got 13, right? And everybody else is relatively different. Which might be the indicator that if you set up a decent program that a year 1 funding and see how that looks at the end of year 1 is something that folks are willing to
Like people are originally
absorb for risk.
when they don't know much about what you're asking.
Yeah.
So.
And this is really the only demographics we have. Is
This isn't a demographic though.
Down below that,
of the people that took the survey. Like basically, we got
residency.
86% are residents, 80, okay, that's.
Yeah, and I mean, we collected information to make sure that we got unique answers. So we do have a lot of the names of the respondents and their email addresses, which might be a good benefit to the TIF committee in the future when we want to direct target folks. For ones that are interested. But. You got a very wide swath of folks that responded to this.
Right.
I was pleasantly surprised with.
A gift card.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I know, right?
I mean, it's $50 and enough, I mean, so it's a buffer response if we do $2 $50 fires. And that's pretty cheap to get good information to support a program or try to guide your policy as you move forward. And then so your new business ideas, I did not filter through these. These are like your raw responses, so you can see how many people put bakery, or internet cafe or farmers market, things like
I
that.
didn't think about a farmer's market, I like that.
But so those are kind of the different things that you're seeing there. And then your other random thoughts and comments, and I really hope there's nothing profane in there. Because I just copy pasted those as well.
Let's see what Tracy is having on.
Well, so there's something you want to talk about under that. Is there anything you want to mention? Okay. Is Steve doing anything? Did he buy that building? Who started the cafe? Who started Six Pennies? Scott.
No, so number 1, I don't talk about people's pending.
Okay.
But number 2, the answer to that's a hard no.
Okay,
Yeah.
hard no, okay.
Yeah.
Because it was a hard maybe earlier.
Yeah, so candidly, one of our biggest slight bite properties on Main Street is Hill Driving School. It's not as slighty and blighty as it could be. But its location is unfortunate and the condition of that physical structure isn't very poor.
Is it really?
And so there have probably been a dozen people that have gone through that building at least. To take a look and see what they could do to rehab it, and everybody's turned right away from it because it's cost prohibitive. It's necessarily a knockdown. Is where we're at, so. It may be something that down the line, the town says, look. We'll knock it down and put up some bones to try to attract investors. I don't know, maybe it's something that. You know, facade money or gap funding to support. I'm not sure, but I mean, it's, from what I can tell, the asking price.
I'm laughing
The
at
asking price.
I'm laughing at the pizza price, I'm sure.
You're not gonna get rock, I mean.
And then another one was like, anything but a pizza place.
Yeah, that's this, for is there? Friends.
But I'll go through this and I'll kind of total all up into the broad categories, and I think that's something that you want to keep on the side table when you're looking at the side of other programs like that and you're targeting money.
Just so most people know, we do have a hardware store coming. property. Not downtown, but we do have a.
That's actually a good meeting with them, you go see them, right, so they're very mad I'm not working.
So we lost the RC car place though.
Yeah, they're gonna.
That's like a pretty big investment too, right? They stopped that whole store. It was like like the little RC cars, the remote control
Oh,
cars.
yeah.
A lot of people didn't even know it was there.
No, yeah.
I didn't know.
Weren't they doing it out of their house?
Yeah,
But now it's
yeah.
like a.
Yeah. And I mean, again, we didn't have a building for them to move into, but.
I know,
They.
when they left, I was like, oh.
That's
Yeah.
investment that they.
Yeah.
it's gotta be.
Yeah, it's, I mean, so the phone isn't right, and that's the thing that kind of stinks.
What do you mean?
We didn't know that they were moving into
Right.
a side.
No, and
Right.
after it had already been worked, I'm like, oh, maybe I should have applied for TIF, like, what's TIF, I'm like,
Yeah,
alright.
Right.
Here we need a table, assuming days.
Well, people don't want to talk, they don't want to know anything about it until they needed it, and it's already too late for that. So the best thing that I can try to do is. Get to existing businesses so people talk, make sure that some of the Christian or Kim Linloff at the chamber knows. And the banks, right? Skyragan, Franklin, the banks that deal with most of what we see, make sure that they know about it to be able to tell folks.
Has there been any interest in, it's a place that went out of business, I wonder.
Oh, if anybody interested in. Well, they moved to Waterville. They didn't go out of business, they moved to Waterville.
Oh, well,
They went to Water
but
Street.
they left Norridgewock.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's all proprietary, and that's one of the biggest concerns that I would have with your revolving loan fund coming around this table, is that. What people want to know out of curiosity is usually a competitive disadvantage if that gets out.
Oh,
So when people look at who's buying buildings or interested in this and what type of business, everybody wants to know, but once that cat gets out of the bag, they're at an economic disadvantage. And oftentimes it causes the project to fall through.
Interesting.
And then we should get some reach out about those forecasts and then they're.
Okay, but on the flip side, if you've got an existing business in Norridgewock and you're looking to add a service truck or, whatever that may be. Who cares?
Well, until your finances get hauled out in a public meeting.
So would it still be public, like if you just own?
Mhm.
So, and I guess that's where I struggle, because we give them a facade grant and don't ask for any finances, when we just give them money. But if we're going after a loan, for some reason, we need all their finances.
Well, so when you're giving a loan, you're supposed
have
to,
to pay you back,
right, you're asking them to pay you back.
so you need to know they can pay you back.
And the risk and this collateral and everybody else that's in line, and if you don't, then you might as well just give the money away.
Right.
And the reason why your facade goes, and maybe you wanna pull that back, but the cost of materials and everything else is just. 25,000 up to 25 on your facade is a direct target for what most people in Norridgewock wanna see. And that's places to be cleaned up.
I feel
Places
so
to
like
go
having
better.
a loan thing, like one of my first thoughts is it almost makes me feel like we're becoming part of a bank. Cause we're making the decision on Christian. And if we're looking at their finances, right, I mean, he's gonna.
Well, no,
end up,
he did say that they could deal with it.
But I think we still have to decide.
No,
No.
I mean, I would,
No.
if it were to me, I would say, no, you just have
Yeah.
to trust him. It's organization.
Oh, okay, that's, okay, that's.
Yeah.
We don't have
Because
to.
Skeleton does grants, but the loans, they manage right through that.
Okay, so
He
he
said
would,
you can set it up that way, but most of the time they just say, here's
so
the
we
your
would
money.
yeah.
we'd give him like a set of things and then he would decide.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
But we
So it's
decide
the
what
letter.
goes in, right?
Yeah.
the amount, yeah.
Or what businesses go in.
No,
No,
No.
that's where we try to be neutral, that he gets the 20 enrollments and then goes by our
So we
criteria.
could say like, these are the target businesses that we want.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives him like a general guideline of
Yeah.
what
Good.
we have in mind. But essentially it would be them making the decision and us.
Like we could say, okay, we have 4 pizza places, so maybe that's not quite a target, like a
Right.
laundromat that we don't have.
And they would look at all of it.
types of businesses, location, employees, who knows what else you might have. Do you want to invest in infrastructure? Do you want to brick and mortar, or do you want to buy a new refrigerator,
Gotcha.
right?
Gotcha.
Those
So we
are
just
things that
need
you
to
guys are
put
gonna
it
have to
in
consider when
yeah.
we say we want to send some, we'd rather invest in brick and mortar. or-
That
We
would
just have to
still,
set the guidelines and he can say, okay, they meet these 5. Yeah.
But didn't he kind of say too, it could have like the whole gray area of these are our guidelines, but
And that's why it's better administrated by a third party.
Right.
Yeah.
As far as, say, a new business coming in, do we have a targeted location that we would like to, that business, say, be built? You know,
So I mean, right now, real estate is an issue. Obviously, we want to build on main corridors, but there's no real estate inventory, so to say. You know, because of the dense agriculture right in and around what's developed here is center. There's not much in the way of development. So, you know, the solar development that we see south of town, it's what we're seeing for solar development, I think, is because of the payoff long-term over time, as opposed to just that cash infusion up front. Folks are very reluctant to give up land, and that's one of our biggest obstacles. So you're looking at, you know, existing stock, and whether it's a tear down or rebuild. Obviously, we'd like to see them on public utilities. If you can put a user on public utilities, that adds customer base,
Yeah.
it's a revenue for both utilities. Things like that.
So how do you want us to use this information?
So this year, I'll work this over more in the next month. To kind of give you your priorities in terms of how many people said what exactly, because these are all just comments that weren't quantified.
Well, there was a lot of comments about farmers markets. Is that something we could do at the?
Well, that'd be
at
a great project for a not town employee and a board of volunteers and farmers that wanted to organize that, like they do in every other community. I can tell you that one of the biggest obstacles that you're gonna have is that, well, one, you already have a couple farms in town that are pretty well set up, and I think they'd be reluctant to move. And two, getting the number of people that come on the day that you want it and having a backup location. So you've got to find a day in the week where a town around us doesn't have it. Right now, it's pretty easy, but when you get to peak season in the summer, it becomes very, very difficult.
And then an inside place in case.
Yeah, it's really just the park and then nothing
Right.
else. Look at that, all those logistics I didn't think about.
It would be great. And one of the things that I don't know how many times it popped up here, but one of the things I get hit up with a lot is like co-working space.
Yeah.
Or.
Which would be like a
pop-up
bakery
space.
too.
And honestly, it was the driving school building downtown until we figured out, it was, you know, how could you explore something like that to say, okay, it's gonna be public space, public bathrooms. And then be an area that was gated off that allowed individuals to come up and pop up with artisans or whatever else you might have, it might be meeting space or. So, but it was opportunity and it's cost prohibitive at this point in time. And honestly, we'd like to see private investment come in and take care of it first.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. That, are you happy? You?
So I guess what we want to talk about right now, before we go to other business and adjourn, is how would you guys like to move forward or discuss any revolving loan fund? Things like that, or do you, I mean, we'll obviously put it on your next agenda. Talk about it, you want to talk about, what do you want to talk about? You wanna-
Can you tell us how much money we currently have?
Yeah,
Or like,
so
a-
this is not updated, so I'm gonna say,
so in
knock $100,000
March,
off from this just in case.
so in March, when we would come up with it, would there be more than this, or would this
No.
be,
This is your approximate amount right now,
okay,
and then this is kind of forecast out, you can see it hasn't been updated in a year.
so if we took 100,000.
Say it's 600,000
Okay,
is your balance. This does not include forecasted expense of the sidewalk and lighting upgrade for downtown. Which is supposed to be starting this next year. I have a meeting next week with the engineers from the state. That was originally estimated a little under 2 million and now we're almost at 2.5 million. The large chunk of that is actually the increase in cost of lighting. But
Repeat
that
it though.
is lighted from the bank. Matching lamp posts with your wreath holders and your flag holders, and they'd be uniform all the way down through to the Mechanic Street.
To the what?
The Mechanic Street, where the electronic signboard is now, it's all spaced by DOT for the lighting studies and things like that.
Yeah, to still include a sidewalk to Sula.
It does,
does that include lighting to the ball field? Or no,
no,
that's not down there, okay,
Granite
we're on
curb?
top of that.
Okay,
I'm not sure, that's a question that's on the list. I know that there was a lot of discussion about them giving us granite curbing instead of the bit curb because of historic buildings. And they were gonna weigh out the cost of it.
Just long term, just, you can reset granite curb. Time and time again. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I agree.
It looks better all the time and then, you know, when you do need to reset it, it's just.
so I do think it would be something worth looking into or thinking about if. Or just trying it for a year, see how it works, and then
Right,
if
there's
it's
no
a
reason.
flop, then don't do it again.
Okay,
I mean, if they get a 5-year loan, then I think we're in it for that amount of time, but we don't have to add money to it.
Right.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's, if we're looking for economic development, this is like. If I were a person coming into town and knew I could get a low or. Interest loan to help me start my business, it would be a.
Well, it's not just that, like if the bank doesn't give them enough, they can like. Go pull from there as well.
John, what do you think,
I mean, yeah, I mean, interest rates are,
as a business owner?
commercial right now, just on my line of credit, I'm paying 7.5 to 8.5.
Wow.
And I think a standard loan would be comparable to that. Real estate is, I mean, everything is
6,
just
I think
crazy.
it's the lowest maybe.
Yeah, and even if it comes down over the next year, like we're at historic low for so long.
Right,
Like, as long as I've been in business, you know, like you could get less than 4% easy, and now you can't.
We do.
Yeah.
How about you?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. I think it gives people a reason to come to Norridgewock versus another town.
I think it would take a whole nother meeting though to set up the parameters that we want, and what we want to do.
Yeah.
Like a whole separate.
I think it sounds like a good idea to me. I'm concerned about sprawl. And new businesses being, I mean, as TIF was originally for. To develop the downtown.
Well, any business
And
in the
that
town.
is
would be good
still the
business,
main-
No matter where it was though, right?
Pardon?
I
Any,
said, I feel like any business in the town would be good no matter where it was located, right?
once you have sprawl, you don't get rid of it. And it's nice if people come here because, or I think they come here because it's not big and you don't have to drive
We
4
don't have the
miles.
land to sprawl too far out, so, I mean, it would be like,
I think as much as like downtown is great, it's also, we're really lucky that we're on a major route for most of
Yeah,
the town, so even if it sprawls that way a little bit, at least it's
it
still.
would stay on the
Frontage,
same route,
yeah.
I would assume.
but yeah, I think overall, I like
So
the
I
idea.
almost sense, can we? Well, are we gonna continue to talk about it or should we just move on?
no, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, on your next agenda, we're gonna sit down and talk about parameters.
Okay.
If you want to see on your loans, I'll reach out to Christian and, you know, get scouting. If there are guidelines, we can get it out to you ahead of time, open your packets before the day of the meeting and, you know, mark it up.
Okay.
How do
And
you,
maybe
What
reach
you
out
like, what you
to,
don't like,
who did he say, Jeff?
Jeff.
That does the same thing.
Well, Jeff's still there.
I just wanted to feel out how you guys all felt about like open enrollment compared to deadline date. What is that?
I think it should be open enrollment, but that's.
Yeah, because I think with the deadline, the deadline date.
Like even my,
I don't know.
People miss
right?
out.
Yeah, right, like if they don't have the idea in their head at that point, but I don't know.
I just didn't know with like the first year, like getting a grasp of like how much is really interested if you put a deadline on it. Rather than if you put open
I do think the
enrollment.
deadline's a good idea because, again, like Christian said, like you could give all your money to one business and then the next
Right.
week, somebody else comes back and like, oh, well, I would have rather.
So he, and
supported
he
that
mentioned like
business.
two deadlines, but like I'm thinking like first year, like just to gauge like, okay.
How many?
We did this, is there 20 people that are interested, or did we get 2? You know what I mean?
And
If you have
we do,
open
then we could
enrollment.
do open enrollment.
Right, then we can
Right?
change it.
Let's talk about it next time.
Yeah.
Almost my bedtime.
Any other business that people
My
want to talk about?
Said myself.
The only thing that I have is that I did meet with the folks from Rent Dog Fund, which is the stand-up paddleboard and kayak rental. And I had the onboarding call with them last week before. Right now, I told them, I said, let's shoot for May 15th launch date. They want to move it up to May 1st. So I told them when earlier than that, we might still have snow on the ground, but they're excited.
I think then I'm early spring.
Okay,
And if we come up for a spot for that.
it's gonna be, as you look at the launch, it'll be up to the left on the gravel, and whether or not
On
I.
the left on the gravel towards the park.
Yes. The fun question is whether or not we eat out this little area underneath the tree that got grass on it right now. And gravel that and put that there, or if we're actually gonna consider
Are
part.
we doing a cement pad or just
Gravel,
and is that out of the flood area?
no.
Well,
Redemption center.
I was thinking about the swim area.
Be up by the street.
If we would have had steps in there during the flood, they would be gone.
Did
Yeah.
parts of the dock go away?
No,
Oh, it didn't.
no, so this last storm, I mean. If we're gonna measure things like that, I don't wanna be the pessimist, but then we have nothing there.
I know.
Nothing, so the new building that was donated to the town went right up to the ridge cap.
It did not.
Yes, it did, and it picked it up and it dropped to over 4 feet.
Ah.
And so that and everything in it was a total loss. It went right up to the roof of the gazebo.
Yeah.
All your playground equipment, so it's kind of a cost benefit. I can tell you right now that the swim docks that we have there are gonna be weighted. So if the water comes up and over them, they're still gonna be there. Hopefully,
Maybe.
the.
I mean, it was
the
nice to
float
meet you
dock-
last time we
Right,
had
we-
flags, so I mean,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be expecting another one.
Well, we've had two, right? So it's the, like the float dock, that's gonna be taken and moved off the property. Public Works, they will hate for a little bit, but you know, that stuff's gonna come to higher ground, same as the swim docks, when those get removed, they'll have to come up and go to higher ground, and it's just. It's what we're having to do to pivot, because I can't keep filing insurance claims and FEMA claims on the same stuff, just because we don't wanna move it.
So with the kayaks and the paddleboards, we take care of those.
They are
Let's see
responsible
then.
for taking care of that side of things, they're gonna pick them up and freight them
Oh,
to
they will.
Kansas or Kentucky, one of the,
The metal part too?
yes.
Oh, perfect.
The only thing I ever want, the only other thing I want to mention about that, and I mentioned it when we talked to the gentleman on the phone, is we need signage at the road.
Mm.
Just because if you're driving by and you start saying, oh, kayak, don't forget that, but if you're driving by and.
Yeah.
I think it would be a huge draw.
For sure.
If I'm driving and I see a nice river and I don't have to do anything. That's a no-brainer, $30 and I can be on the river for 2 hours, you know, so.
Really good question that I didn't ask is, does it, life jackets, you have to bring your own?
No, they.
Not really, yeah, okay, perfect.
So why don't you and I get together on
Yeah,
that?
I think
Because what we probably should be doing is pulling together a number of signs with both locations, and maybe even one of those is along the rail trail. Up to along the rail trail.
Great.
But if you're on your ATV or side by side, maybe, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, not
Yeah.
even if you don't stop that day, you can come back.
The price and then come back to these five folks and ask them for support.
Approved.
And I know another thing that the select board is directing me to explore is a new sign at the top of Bruce Little Park, probably with messaging. So it would be an electronic signboard.
Okay.
But we haven't quite got that far, it's really initial, and I'm gonna get with the Parks Committee to see what they want. There, but it's all about the ability to message out to the public, have things that change, have things that look current instead of the telephone poles that are there.
Yeah.
And that may be something that comes back to you folks as well. There's a lot of pressure right now, especially from the budget committee, because they don't want to spend traditional funds. They want to push me over here and try to get you folks.
Not everyone's budget to be honest.
Right. It's a fun various projects. So mine will hit a couple of that are on my mind. There's a lighting proposal for the ball field. The rec committee has asked for a trial.
That 30 years ago.
Yeah, but this is a trial, there's soccer, there's safety, there's also kind of the extra enhancement. So just for the month of October, the rec committee would like to rent lights to light the ball fields for soccer. And the budget committee pretty much said, pick your field maintenance or pick your lights, and they're only gonna provide funding for one of them. And the TIF was brought up as an eligible funding source, so that would be something that very likely down the line, very soon, after town meeting, you'll be hearing about that.
Those like rentals,
Light rental to see, how does it work, how is it perceived, does it do what we want it to do?
The select board still, their number is still for both though.
That's correct. Yep, but it's possible that I'm gonna be back here asking for things like that.
So it sounds like even more so we need to do this loan thing, because a lot of people are gonna be coming. Asking for this.
It is what it is, but there'll be quite a bit of activity come through in the form of various projects. And I fully expect that we'll have another request probably from Mrs. Mailer, for other action doing things if these starts to. Really wrap up
Pretty good
the
shape.
days.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. So the Ashley Wing Park down at the big tree is pretty much where she wanted to be this time of year, so it looks really good.
That's good and fine.
Okay. Any other business?
We have to like, odds on who say.
Yeah, the committee wish to elect by its chair.
Any nominations?
not it.
I'll nominate, Mr. Lynch.
Mr. Lynch, do I hear?
Second
Any thought? Okay.
Sure.
All in
I'm
favor?
gonna be here, right?
There we go, you get the same money I do. One other thing before we get done, so what's that? Double. Do I have Dunkin' Double this man? Twice.
All right,
I'll give up mine.
I appreciate it.
So I had asked the town manager, and I'd like a public answer about my WMI waste management thing. Did you ever? You never responded to me.
Because I thought it was a joke.
No, we used to have Otherwise, I always wanted to have a sliding hill in Norridgewock.
Yeah, I think it was a joke, sorry. So that's private property.
Yes, I know.
And we always hear about the risk.
Yes, I
that
know.
facility poses. So no, I can't really think of it.
You wanna slide down the trash?
So my thought was twice a year, have a sliding event at Waste Management.
I'll reach out to representatives from Waste Management and see.
I would be happy to call,
Is there no other option?
if you want.
So an alternative solution would be Winding Hill has a detour around it, and that's a pretty good hill.
Road?
Oh,
You mean the old dump?
yeah, no,
Or the old gun, that would be.
there's a really, there's a good hill.
Waterville just did this thing where they took like all the snow that they removed from like all the big piles around. And then like shut down a road, which we don't have the space, but and they just like piled all.
We could just
the big
pile it
piles.
right here in Richards Park.
There's,
Yeah.
there's a good hill on the Haddow Road. How about on the Haddow Road? That hill that goes down.
Well, that's private property, but I mean, honestly, the landowner is very, very.
Yes, he is.
He's good about letting people on there, so.
And that's a great hill.
Where?
Okay.
No,
So, Jared, I mean, a motion.
By the Haddow Road.
Thank you.
You go
All in favor?
down.
Yep, good.
The back of the
Thank
street
you,
back.
everybody.